Okay, so hello, good afternoon to all of you. My name is Amisha, and today I am here to make my presentation on Section 5 and Section 7 of Hindu Marriage Act. Section 5 talks about the conditions that needs to be followed in order to solemnize a valid Hindu marriage. So, first condition that it lays down is that there must be monogamy. Monogamy means that a person shall have only one spouse. Again, spouse means a lawfully wedded wife or a husband. Hence, bigamy therefore comes down to mean that anyone who has more than one spouse. As per this law, a Hindu cannot have more than one spouse living at the time of marriage. So, what happens if somebody marries again while her first wife or husband is actually living? Then that person is actually guilty under section 17 of Hindu Marriage Act of bigamy. Such a marriage also becomes void under section 11 of Hindu Marriage Act, and the liability is that of a criminal liability under section 494 and 495 of IPC. The second condition that it lays down is related to the mental capacity. It says that at the time of marriage, neither party should be of unsound mind. Unsound mind actually means that a state of mind whereby a person almost does not know the consequence of his actions. He does not know his obligation. So, because of this unsound mind, he must not be incapable of giving a valid consent. So, consent is one of the very important factors that is required for a valid marriage. Secondly, it also talks about a mental disorder, but mental disorder can be of various types. The section narrows it down into two concepts. These are a mental disorder of such a kind which makes them unfit for marriage, and procreation of children, which is one of the main objectives of marriage, that is procreation of children. So if either of the spouse, say husband or wife, is actually unfit in terms of procreation of children, then that marriage would also be declared void. And thirdly, those who have recurrent attacks of insanity. Clause 3 of Section 5 talks about the age of parties to marriage, as to what age marriage is would be considered as legal. So the Hindu Marriage Act describes this age for the bridegroom to be that of 21 years, and the bride at the age of 18 years in order to get married. Of course, child marriage over the years have actually been followed down by various judicial precedents, and as of now, child marriage is not void per se, neither it is valid, it is actually voidable at the option of either of the parties. We all know Child Marriage Prohibition Act 2006, which says that a degree of nullity can be obtained by either of the parties uh, if on attaining the age of majority within 2 years. That is, for a boy, he can file for a suit for degree of nullity after 2 years of attaining 21 years, say 23, and that girl can attain divorce on grounds of section 5 clause 3 within 2 years, say 20, that means 20 year of age. Then clause 4 talks about the degrees of prohibited relationship. So prohibited relationship under Hindu law actually is a certain kind of relationship, as actually matrimonial relations cannot be established between these relationship, because Dharma Shastra say that a sex relationship with such people is actually the highest sin. So there are certain categories of people who have been divided, and any man or woman cannot marry with these category of people. Section 5 clause 4 section 3 clause G actually defines prohibited relationship, and as we can see in the table attached hereby, there are certain categories of people for both men and women separately defined as to whom they cannot marry. For husband, usually it's mother and their mother, and then there is a man cannot marry the widow who is the wife of his brother, say uncle or grandfather's brother or grandmother's brother. And women cannot marry again in the same criteria, say son of a brother or sister, son of either parent's sister. Then there is father, grandfather, brother or former husband. So these people cannot marry. Any marriage that is solemnized in violation of section 5 clause 4 would be a void marriage under section 11 of Hindu Marriage Act. Okay, clause 5 talks about Sapinda relationship. So before we understand Sapinda, as in the penal statute, we have to understand these two theories, Jimut Vahan's theory and then Viganeshwar theory. Jimut Vahan's theory actually says that we all know we offer pind to our ancestors. So when two person offer pind to same ancestors, they are called sapindas. And as per Viganeshwar theory, pind is actually a particle of same body. Father's particular body are present in son's body, and this goes on. Hence this degree of sapinda relationship goes on 7 through father and 5 through mother. Now this has been reduced, and now it has been reduced to 5 through father and 5 through mother. As per the Hindu Marriage Act, Section 3, Clause 5, Sapinda relationship with reference to any person actually extend as far as the third generation in the line of ascent through the mother and fifth generation in the line of ascent to the father. As we can see in the picture also, that the counting will always go upwards from the person who we are referring to, fourth, fifth generation from the side of father, and third generation from the side of mother. If any marriage takes place within this generation, that marriage would be void. And then there are also certain additional conditions that needs to be followed in order to solemnize a valid marriage. So section 5 has its own condition, and then there comes additional condition under section 7, which says ceremonies for a Hindu marriage. As in section 7 clause A, it says that a Hindu marriage may be solemnized in accordance with the customary rites and ceremonies of at least one party. Any marriage obviously contains two parties, and it may so happen that two or both the parties actually have different customs, have different rituals. So it is not necessary that a marriage must be solemnized according to the customary rites and rituals of both the parties. It is only essential that if one of the parties ritual are being followed, all the due ceremonies must be performed in the course of marriage. Section 7 clause B says that if such rites and custom includes saptapadi, the marriage becomes binding and complete only when the seventh step is taken. Now, what is Saptapadi? Saptapadi is actually been derived from two words, Sapt, which means seven, and Padi, which means walking steps. So, literal meaning comes down to mean that something which walking or taking 7 steps by the bridegroom and the bride jointly around the sacred fire. So obviously, Agni is the witness of their marriage bond, and they take 7 steps around this fire, and the marriage is solemnized. So the question that arises whether these conditions and essential and ceremonies are actually essential to perform. So obviously yes, because if these conditions and ceremonies are not performed, the marriage would be declared as void. As in Bhaurao Shankar Lokhande versus State of Maharashtra, the Supreme Court held that whoever marries actually mean that whoever marries validly. Now, valid marriage would only happen when we follow Section 5 and Section 7 of Hindu Marriage Act. If any of the conditions are violated, marriage would be void. So, if the marriage is not a valid one, according to the law prescribed, no question of it being void appears at the first hand. So, if the question of it not being valid arises, that means the marriage has not happened. So, if the marriage is not a valid marriage, it is no marriage in the eye of law. So what happened in this case is that the wife actually accused husband of bigamy, but husband in his defense said that actually he did not perform saptapadi, therefore he has not committed bigamy, and the wife could not prove that actually in her community saptapadi was not essential to perform. Here, there, hence, it was held that where a wife files a case of bigamy against husband, it is she who has to prove that marriage took place by following all the due ceremonies. If ceremonies are not performed, no marriage actually take place, and that means that no second marriage happened, and therefore husband can actually get an easy escape, and there would be no prosecution for bigamy. So, in order to conclude, I would say that obviously Hindu marriage harmonizes two individuals for an ultimate eternity. But Hindu Marriage Act was actually made to give this sacramental bond of marriage also a nature of contractual form. Therefore, it is very essential to not only perform because of the ceremonies, but also to solemnize the marriage statutorily. Because if statutes are not followed, the entire marriage would be declared void. That's it. Thank you.